Lewis Hamilton just activated a rear wing in Bahrain that looks like it belongs in the future. During preseason testing, the SF-26 did not just open its rear flap. It rotated almost 180 degrees, nearly inverted. Engineers measured a straight-line gain close to 12 kilometers per hour, without extra battery deployment, without a tow. Pure aerodynamic efficiency. And insiders estimate the full package could be worth up to half a second per lap. Half a second in modern Formula One is not an upgrade. It is domination. But here is where it gets explosive. Red Bull immediately went to the FIA. Safety concerns. Legality questions. Because if the hydraulic system fails in low drag mode, rear downforce disappears instantly at top speed. So now we are watching a potential championship-defining innovation, before the first race has even started. Did Ferrari just outsmart the entire grid? Will the FIA allow this radical interpretation of the rules? And why did Vasseur and Leclerc reportedly go silent when they saw the full data? Subscribe now. Because what Hamilton revealed in Bahrain could change the balance of power before a single point is scored. To understand why this rear wing left people speechless, we need to slow the moment down. Because from the outside, it looked simple. Hamilton exits the final corner in Bahrain. He straightens the wheel. He presses the activation. And then the rear wing does something nobody expected. It does not gently open like the old drag reduction system. It rotates. Aggressively. Almost fully over. For a split second, the upper element looks inverted against the desert sky. Engineers on rival pit walls immediately lean forward. Cameras zoom in. Screens are replayed in slow motion. Because under the new active aerodynamic regulations, movable aero is allowed. But this level of rotation? That is interpretation. Ferrari identified something subtle in the wording. The rules clearly define how fast the wing can move. They do not explicitly define the final rotation angle in low drag configuration. That gray area became Ferrari's opportunity. And the numbers explain why the reaction was so intense. On the straight, the SF-26 gained close to 12 kilometers per hour in top speed. Not by burning extra hybrid energy. Not by running in extreme engine mode. By reducing drag almost completely. That solves a major weakness Ferrari showed earlier. Energy clipping at the end of long straights. Lower drag means less resistance. Less resistance means lower energy consumption. Which means more consistent power delivery lap after lap. But the rear wing alone is not the entire story. Behind the central exhaust, Ferrari installed a small secondary element. It looks insignificant, but it uses hot exhaust gases to energize airflow over the diffuser. That generates additional downforce in slower corners. So while the main wing eliminates drag on the straight, this secondary element compensates for stability in the turns. That balance is critical. Because normally, when you reduce rear drag that aggressively, you sacrifice corner confidence. Ferrari appears to have engineered around that trade-off. And then there is the software layer. The front and rear wings do not always move together. On corner entry, the front closes first. The aerodynamic center shifts forward. Sharper rotation into the apex. On exit, the front opens first. Balance shifts rearward. Traction improves. The car behaves almost like two different machines in one lap. Short and aggressive on entry. Long and stable on exit. Leclerc described it as artificial rotation. Hamilton said he felt more connected to the rear than in recent years. Now imagine standing on the Ferrari pit wall watching that data come through. You see the straight line gain. You see the improved middle sector performance. You calculate an estimated advantage between 3 and 5 tenths per lap. In modern Formula One, that is not marginal. That is potentially season defining. And that is when the silence happens. Because you realize this is no longer just a clever idea. It is a statement. But statements invite reactions. Red Bull immediately began questioning the legality. They raised safety concerns. If the hydraulic system controlling that extreme rotation fails at high speed, rear downforce could vanish instantly. That is not just a competitive issue. That is a safety argument. And safety arguments carry weight with the FIA. McLaren and Mercedes have also expressed concern. Because if this interpretation stands, other teams may need to redesign entire rear structures to compete. This is not a small update. It is architectural. Rear wing mountings connect to gearbox casings. Gearboxes connect to suspension geometry. Changing this concept means rebuilding significant portions of the car. And that takes time. So here we are. Still in preseason testing. No points awarded. Yet the political temperature is rising rapidly. Ferrari has unveiled perhaps the most radical rear wing concept on the grid. Hamilton has validated its straight line and cornering potential. Leclerc has confirmed the balance benefits. Vasseur has seen the data. and rivals are already preparing countermoves. The only missing piece now is the FIA's decision. If the system remains legal without restriction, Ferrari could begin the season with a genuine performance edge. If it is limited before race weekend, we will look back at Bahrain as the moment a revolutionary idea almost changed the sport. Either way, Hamilton did not just complete a test run. He revealed something that forced the entire paddock to stop and rethink the balance of power. And we are only at the beginning. But now we need to look at the part nobody outside the garages can see: the reaction. Because when an innovation is truly disruptive, you do not measure it only in tenths of a second. You measure it in how quickly rivals respond. Within hours of Ferrari running the inverted rear wing publicly, Red Bull representatives were already speaking with the FIA. Not casually. Formally. Photos were printed. Angles were measured. Slow-motion footage was reviewed frame by frame. The argument was carefully constructed. Not just about speed. About interpretation. And about safety. If the upper rear element rotates that aggressively in low drag mode, what happens if the hydraulic system fails? What happens if the wing remains inverted as the car approaches a braking zone at full speed? Rear downforce would disappear instantly. At over 300 kilometers per hour. That is not theoretical. That is potentially catastrophic. And in Formula One, safety concerns move faster than performance protests. Now imagine the pressure inside Ferrari. You have unveiled the most radical concept on the grid. Your drivers are reporting improved balance. You have data suggesting gains between 3 and 5 tenths per lap. And now the governing body is reviewing it. That creates tension. Because innovation in Formula One lives in the margins. Push too little, you gain nothing. Push too far, and the rulebook pushes back. Meanwhile, Hamilton continues to adapt to the system. He has acknowledged that the balance shift mid-corner requires trust. Absolute trust. When the front wing closes first on entry, the car rotates sharply. When it opens first on exit, traction increases. If that timing is perfect, the effect feels transformative. If there is even slight lag, the car becomes unpredictable. And unpredictable at high speed is dangerous. That is why this concept is so fascinating. It is brilliant. But it is delicate. Now zoom out. We are still in preseason testing. Fuel loads are hidden. Engine modes are not fully unleashed. No one is showing their complete hand. But behavior is difficult to disguise. The SF26 looks fast in a straight line. It looks sharp in the middle sector. It looks stable through fast corners. And that combination explains why Vasseur and Leclerc were reportedly left momentarily speechless when the full data came through. Because this is not a cosmetic gain. It is a philosophy shift. Lower drag without energy sacrifice. Dynamic balance without mechanical complexity. An aerodynamic transformer. But the story is not finished. Because the FIA has the final word. A technical directive could limit the rotation angle before the first race. A clarification could close the gray area Ferrari exploited. Or the system could be declared fully compliant. And if that happens, the entire grid must react. Rear structures would need redesigning. Hydraulic systems re-engineered. Development plans accelerated. That ripple effect would shape the entire season. So as we stand in Bahrain, watching preseason laps unfold, we are witnessing more than testing. We are watching a potential turning point. Hamilton has validated one of the boldest aerodynamic interpretations in years. Leclerc has confirmed its cornering impact. Rivals are challenging it. The FIA is evaluating it. And the balance of power may hinge on a document released before race weekend. If the rear wing survives, Ferrari could enter the season with genuine momentum. If it is restricted, the political battle alone has already shifted the narrative. Either way, one thing is clear. Hamilton did not just reveal a clever piece of engineering. He revealed a challenge. A challenge to the rulebook. A challenge to Red Bull. And perhaps, a challenge to the entire grid. And when the lights finally go out for the first race, we will discover whether this insane rear wing becomes the defining weapon of the season. Or the most controversial innovation that never got the chance to race. But here is where the story could take an even more dramatic turn. Because innovation in Formula One does not exist in isolation. It forces evolution. If the FIA decides that Ferrari's inverted rear wing complies fully with the regulations, then what we are witnessing in Bahrain is not just a clever interpretation. It is the beginning of an aerodynamic arms race. Other teams will not sit still. They will dissect every frame of footage. They will analyze actuation speeds. They will model extreme rotation concepts of their own. And suddenly, what looked radical becomes the new reference. But copying this system is not simple. The rear wing mounting structure must withstand different load paths when the element rotates so aggressively. Hydraulic components must be reinforced. Software must synchronize movement with millisecond precision. And any redesign affects weight distribution. Weight distribution affects tire wear. Tire wear affects race strategy. Everything connects. Now imagine the development departments across the grid right now. Engineers who thought they had finalized their aerodynamic direction are reopening design files. Simulation teams are rerunning airflow models overnight. Because if Ferrari's gain truly sits between 3 and 5 tenths per lap, that margin cannot be ignored. In modern Formula 1, 3 tenths can separate first from fourth. 5 tenths can define a championship. But here is the other side of that coin. The more complex the system becomes, the more fragile it can be. Hydraulics operate under extreme pressure. If a seal fails, if timing drifts, if temperature fluctuations alter actuation speed, the balance shift could occur a fraction too late. And at over 300 kilometers per hour, a fraction is everything. Hamilton has already hinted that adaptation is required. Leclerc described the rotation as artificial. Artificial means it is engineered, not instinctive. Drivers must commit to corners trusting that airflow will behave exactly as programmed. That trust must be absolute. And trust takes time. Preseason testing offers limited laps. The true examination comes under race stress. Dirty air. Wheel-to-wheel battles. Late braking under pressure. If the system performs flawlessly in those conditions, it becomes a masterpiece. If it falters, it becomes a liability. Meanwhile, Red Bull is watching carefully. Their public concern focuses on legality and safety. But strategically, they are calculating something else. If Ferrari's system is approved, do they respond with their own extreme interpretation? Or do they double down on mechanical consistency and tire preservation? Because not every innovation must be copied. Sometimes the counterattack is stability. And stability wins long seasons. So here we are. Still in preseason testing in Bahrain. No points scored. Yet the championship narrative already feels charged. Hamilton has validated one of the most daring aerodynamic concepts in years. Vasseur has seen data suggesting a generational advantage. Leclerc has experienced a car that rotates differently than anything he has driven before. Rivals are preparing protests. The FIA is evaluating interpretations. And the balance between innovation and regulation hangs delicately in the air. The next move does not happen on track. It happens in an office. A technical directive. A clarification. A green light. And whichever path is chosen will echo through the entire season. Because if this rear wing remains untouched, Ferrari may not just start strong. They may force the entire grid into reaction mode from race 1. And if it is restricted, then we will remember Bahrain as the place where Formula 1 came dangerously close to a new aerodynamic era. Either way, Hamilton did more than complete laps in testing. He revealed a line in the rulebook that everyone else had overlooked. And once that line was crossed, the championship fight began before the first lights ever went out.